I'm gonna go ahead and call to order the Wednesday, October 16th, 2019 Portage East Law meeting. This is not the work session. I'm looking for the agenda right here. As far as all the commissioners are present, we're going to have a proposal on the strategic business plan from, I'm guessing, you two gentlemen.
That's correct.
You have Jacob and Henry?
Correct.
And which one's Jacob and Henry?
Jacob Henry.
Okay. We're gonna go ahead and do your portion now, because I don't think we're gonna have any public comment at all, so. Guys, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you.
If you'd like, I can introduce.
Yeah, that'd be
Everybody-
fantastic. Yeah, we would like to
Craig,
get to
Go
know
ahead.
you all.
Craig Zalesi.
Bill Meyer,
Terry Newman, Mike Buckwald.
Craig Brand.
My name is Jacob Collister. I'm a principal planner with the Lane Council of Governments. Port of Siuslaw is a member agency of the, or a member of the Lane Council of Governments. I've worked with the Lane Council of Governments for about 12 years now. In fact, I was thinking back that in the first year that I was here, I participated in some of the final steps of site certification for the industrial site out there that the port has, when they were trying to get it site certified by Business Oregon. That was one of the first things that I worked on. I've worked with the COG for 12 years. I'm a land use planner, but have worked in economic development planning, do a lot of telecommunications planning, have worked with most recently the cities of Lowell and Coburg on comprehensive planning and some downtown planning. And so I believe it was Kelly, is that?
That's me.
Hi, Kelly. Nice to meet you in person. I've been communicating with Kelly quite a bit. Well, that's me, and then I'll jump into some other items here, and I'll let Henry introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Henry Hurley. I'm assistant planner at ALCOG. Thank you for having us here tonight. I mostly work on current planning at ALCOG. I've worked in the city of Florence, city of Coos Bay, and I've also helped out the city of Brookings. What I do in current planning is mostly tied to statutory deadlines, so it's your common land use applications for variances, zone changes, conditional use permits. So I've been doing a lot of that recently at ALCOG. I've been there for 3 years now.
Yeah, so Henry has done a lot of the coastal work that we've done in the last little while in both Florence and Coos Bay. We're working with the city of Coos Bay on one of the LNG applications that they have from Jordan Cove. So that's been an education, quite interesting. I believe it was about probably 6 months now ago that Howard Schusler, who's our Government Services Director, was out here on a visit, I believe with both of you, or one of you. And it had become clear in that visit that your business strategic plan was in need of an update in order to stay current and valid with Business Oregon. And so he came back and asked that I try to put together some kind of a proposal for an update. And so about 6 months ago here, maybe 5 months ago, took us a little while to put together a proposal. We threw something out there, and I don't know if you remember having seen that. It was sort of a really basic update, and a sort of moderate update, and then something a little more comprehensive. And things went silent for a little while, and then Kelly reached back out and noted that there was some interest to proceed, to get some help to update the plan. So the scope that you have in front of you, Kelly, did you get the revised scope in front of them, or the original one that was part of this?
This is the revised.
This is the revised one, okay, I made that.
Not to exceed 45, but you've got approximately 42.6.
Yeah, and then the task 1.0.
okay, all right.
into November, December, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, tonight, we wanted to get to know the commission, we wanted to introduce ourselves, we have a few questions, and wanted to avail ourselves to questions from you. The way that the proposal's set up is that, essentially between now and the end of the year, we would be working with your staff, with Kelly and David, to try to work on a lot of what I consider to be sort of objective updates. So there are chapters in that strategic plan that address things like facilities, budget. So bringing the plan into 2019 and giving us a better sense for how things have or haven't changed, what the numbers are, what the sort of budget figures look like. And then as we go into the second half of the project, I haven't split it into phases or anything, but sort of getting into next year, there's some outreach components here that are a little more engaging, where we try to do some strength, weakness, opportunity, threats analyses for the different areas where you have established strategies and goals, to revisit those to see what's working and maybe what should be revised. That happens at a number of different levels, the way that we've proposed it, and that was commission level exercises where you would invite stakeholders, and then exercises even where the public is involved. So it's one of the questions that I'd like to frankly sort of refine is, I was looking through the strategic plan, I noticed that in 2013, the existing strategic plan talks about an all-day public event that took place up in Lorraine, where essentially the public stakeholders were invited to participate in sort of a feedback session. There wasn't a lot of detail of what that looked like. I don't know if any of you participated in that, or if it was a success, or if there's any lessons from that. One of the reasons I bring it up is because task 1.3 is essentially facilitating an update for the port's mission statement and some goals and objectives. The way that I had sort of imagined that in my mind is that that would be an exercise that the commission would undertake, that we would help facilitate an exercise with the commission to look at the mission that the commission has, that the port has, and evaluate goals and objectives. But some other ways that that could be undertaken would be to include stakeholders at that point, or members of the public. I think my inclination or preference would be to make that a commission exercise, and then again to focus on reaching out to some of the broader stakeholder groups when some of the more revised information, some of that more revised objective information comes together.
What would that mean, broader stakeholder groups?
Well, that's a good question. I was looking at the existing strategic plan and trying to figure, I didn't find anything that was like a comprehensive list of stakeholders. Stakeholders are mentioned frequently, but I haven't been able to figure out exactly who the port's stakeholders are. I imagine there are some fairly discrete ones.
Other than citizens within the port itself.
Yeah. I mean, there's the citizens,
You know?
there's, I don't know, the Corps of Engineers or the Coast Guard, or I don't know if there are entities that you work with closely that are more organized than the public at large. Typically, stakeholders fall somewhere between your average citizen and the port organization itself. And so are there entities that you engage with frequently, whether it's a state agency or maybe a business, maybe the Chamber of Commerce, or some sort of association of some industry association, or
Watershed Council, people like that.
Watershed Council. That would be another really great example. It'd be interesting, I don't know if maybe there's information that exists from that original stakeholder outreach in Lorraine. I mean, I don't know who came to that event.
Kelly, do you remember anything about that?
I wasn't here then.
No, nobody was.
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Okay.
I was-
We know where Lorraine is, but I don't know why it was up there.
Is that the winery, I'm sure?
Oh, is that what it was
Yeah.
about? I would guess, I mean, the thought that I had as I read that was that, they
It's
must
the
have done
upper end of
that.
the Siuslaw.
The port began the process of a 5-year strategic plan on June 2012 with an all-day special public meeting and long-range planning session held in the upriver portion of the district near Lorraine, inviting.
Big winery.
So I said that, and then there was a stakeholder outreach that was part of that, district stakeholders, customers, and agency partners.
Who was the commissioner then?
I was, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Were you interested?
Oh, yeah.
Who was the manager, or what's his name?
Forsyth.
Forsyth.
Well, we can,
No, that's all
I
right.
think the
Doesn't matter.
question
Yeah.
ultimately was, is there something that we learned from that? If we have no memory of it, then we're not beholden to anything like that at all. Is there interest then in the initial steps here again, the first part of this would be what I'm calling objective updates, which are working with your staff to figure out how to turn the elements of this that cite, say, census data that's 5 years old, or budget data that's 5 years old, or facilities data that's 5 years old, and just bring it up to speed. And then there's the second part of it, which is more sort of subjective updates, which is, there's information here about strategy and about, whether it's marketing, or the business strategy, and that's really the commission's to consider and evaluate. And so what we can offer there is facilitating some process to help bring information to bear or to guide the commission through questions.
What about execution of strategy? It's one thing to have a goal or an objective, and it's another thing to know how to execute it. I mean, I can give you from here to next week all the things I would like to do in terms of these wondrous goals and admission, but in some cases, I'm a real novice in terms of, let's say we wanted to bring events to the port. I have no idea how to execute. So does your assistance help in trying to execute the objectives that we're laying out? Because otherwise, we're gonna spend money that isn't gonna do us any good. I mean, we're gonna have a wonderful document, but the execution is gonna be less than perfect.
Do we have a copy of what you're reading? I don't think we've ever seen it.
That's the old
That's the old
strategic, isn't
I
it?
realize that, but I mean,
You probably never have seen it.
yeah,
It's expired.
I realize that, but that's what he's coming off of this stuff. It would've been nice if we could've saw that before.
This is what we're asked to update, to help
Okay.
prepare a scope to update.
Right. but-
One of the things that's on here to speak to your
Yes.
question is, so there's goals that are outlined and objectives, and I think these are the things that you're talking about, we could do that all day. Strategies start to get at execution, right? And then each of these currently has an action plan, and
Okay.
so there are, I mean,
And that's
see,
what would
here's-
be reviewed and updated and discussed?
If that's the direction of the commission, I mean, if you looked at these objectives and said, yeah, I mean, these look like perfectly fine objectives and goals, let's spend our time talking about the actions. Part of that could be check, 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 like we did this, or this is outdated, that this isn't a relevant action anymore, so we should reevaluate it.
Is that
That's what
still
that exercise
Forsyth?
could be.
I don't know, I think what we should,
We really.
Kelly will get us all copies of the plan that don't have it. So
They
we-
originally came when you first became a
Okay, we just have to
commissioner.
get some more
I
copies.
can get some more
We
copies.
just have to get some more copies and get to everybody that doesn't have one, and at least, you can look at, and I can look at it as well,
Yeah.
and do that.
So let's see, an example that I just opened the page to here was a strategic objective was related to recreational opportunities. This is one of the objectives, was to maintain and improve the campground and related facilities to provide competitive amenities for customers to increase occupancy and revenue generation. So it's a general objective. And the action plan included things like reconfigure and upgrade Zero by fiscal year 2014. Install kayak and canoe launch by fiscal year 2014. Upgrade gazebo by fiscal year 2014. From what I can see here as well in this reporting related to grants, it seems that the port's had a pretty good track record of securing grant funds. And typically, that success, in my experience, is often in part due to the fact that you've identified and sort of vetted these action plans. And you've said, yeah, this is something we've put on our priority list, we've identified it as an action, here's how it fits into our sort of strategic plan. I know that funders typically like to see that. It's one of the answers to the why do a strategic plan. In a lot of communities we work with, they see very real dividends in the sort of funding realm, where they're able to say, the funder wants to see how the request fits into the sort of bigger picture.
Well, I think a lot of that has been done, I mean, the Zero's all done and all that stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, and that could be part of that
I'm
exercise.
gonna, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Kelly and David, the last time we applied for and executed a grant or were successful with a grant, other than the Zero modification, the Zero upgrade due to the FEMA, that was a grant, but that wasn't, I mean, that was a federal application. How actively are we in the granting process now? We're not really, right?
We're not.
The
And
last
that wasn't
time-
really, that was an emergency situation.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with something we wanted to do to achieve anything other than.
So if I came to you at a question as a commissioner and said to you, I have no idea where to go to secure grants, where do you even look, what do I Google so that we can get these grants? I mean, I like it. Is that something you could, in other words?
Well, LCOG has a resource development group that could certainly provide as part of this process. If it was identified as a priority, we could certainly put together what's called a,
What about, if I were, as a commissioner, to help David and Kelly, I wanted to learn about what grants are available. Is there, I mean,
yeah. You bet.
and this is a separate question maybe from this, but this is a question directed at LCOG. Is that a role in life that you guys play in terms of,
Yeah, you bet.
Yep.
In fact, so we did I mentioned that we just completed a downtown master plan for Lowell. Part of that plan,
for what? For-
the city of Lowell wanted a downtown
okay,
master
good,
plan.
good, okay.
If you've been to Lowell, then you're asking yourself, what downtown? So that was the problem they're trying to
Okay,
solve.
all right, all right.
And one of the deliverables for that was a matrix that had funding types, funding opportunities, funding contacts, funding criteria. So it was a really nice summary of the funding opportunities. So
Okay.
that where would I go? Part of that question, and then LCOG as an organization avails itself
Okay.
to members and anyone, frankly.
Would that be part of then of what we would be getting here is assistance in that area? We identify a goal. You mentioned the kayak ramp, which, sounds like an excellent idea.
Yeah.
We haven't executed. We've executed the upgrades to Zero, but there are possibly through other agencies grants relative to creating such a device or such an item, and we could get guidance and assistance from LCOG and
What I could see is, within this scope, it would be seamless to include sort of the matrix that I described.
okay,
We'd probably
pointing
need
us in a
to,
direction for possible funding avenues.
right, that's the landscape, it's sort of the profile of opportunities, that's something we do frequently.
What we're gonna get for that money is that little piece of paper there updated.
Okay,
Am I correct? That's what we're getting. That's gonna be our.
That was the scope. Part of the way that this was presented was that there's a need to revise this strategic plan
okay,
to bring it up to speed.
Okay.
That doesn't mean we couldn't,
okay,
that doesn't mean we couldn't include something like the funding matrix.
okay.
So what I was going to say then.
That would probably increase our costs though.
No, that's what I mean. When I say that it would be seamless within this scope to add something like that.
Okay,
That's something that could happen. will you then, this is you asking LCOG, can you then go and help us get that money? That would be something that would have to somehow be rescoped here. That's not really in the scope of what we presented here, but it's a service that we provide. And if, you know, if
Okay, let's talk about that specific service about grants and grant sources and grant writing.
Yeah.
You would provide guidance and instruction and grant writing 101 for somebody here at, or you guys, we pay you to do the grant, write the
yes.
grant?
Yes.
No, I think
Okay,
YOCOG will provide that assistance to us since we're a member regardless. Has nothing to do with basically,
Okay.
Sure.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we could call up Henry at LCOG, I'm not sure if you're the right person, but say, hey, I need help with a grant. You know, I'm looking
Yeah.
for a grant
Yeah.
to clean up the marina. Oh, yeah, there's 2 available right here.
We
Okay,
would know exactly how to direct you there.
okay,
And then
good.
they would direct you.
Okay, good.
But, and as far as what we're paying them $42,000 for, is just an updated
Okay,
little pamphlet.
okay. I'm trying to piggyback a little more knowledge of what they, but, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is getting me.
Yeah, and that's.
Am I right in saying that?
Yeah,
though?
and there's been other cases where LCOG has entirely written and submitted the grants on behalf of an agency or
Okay.
an organization, and we've administered those grants in the past. We kind of handle the funding, the reporting aspects of it. So LCOG can also write the grant for you as well. We also have those services.
We have a really good track record in assisting
Okay.
our
All right.
members.
And I apologize for getting off track.
No problem.
No, it's confusing. As a commission, we're sitting here, I'm not sure what you're selling. You know, if you're selling soap, sell us soap. I mean, we're kind of getting dense all the way around this here. I'd like to know what you're selling us, so.
So this
Okay.
is, the plan is required by law,
Yes.
by Oregon statute, is that correct?
As I understand it, well,
So penalties to the Port of Siuslaw for not doing whatever, not just doing some minor changes to updating to that?
you know, I would direct that to David as far as the necessity for,
David,
This is part of how we get our funding and get grants is with these updated strategic business plans. This is
Because OWEB or whoever said, hey, we want to see you visit your
How
strategic business.
we prioritize it, and this is required for ports. this
so, but
strategic-
when you say, I'm not, I mean, I wanna do it, don't misunderstand me, but I have a hard time understanding that the Port of Siuslaw, that there's an Oregon statute that requires the Port of Siuslaw to spend $42,000 to $45,000 to do this. We have one in place, we're updating it, not to say that there's not a lot of updating that needs to be done, that I can't answer. But, so that's a stiff number for a small port like ours, when we're sitting here before, we don't even start talking about anything before we start talking about grants. I don't even remember the last grant that we
Yeah,
didn't have to
no,
pay
that's what I
for.
was asking about, yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out when this strategic business plan is required if we apply for a loan from Business Oregon, or what's it, I mean, what good does it do us other than us helping to give direction for the future of the port? And I believe in that, but I'm trying to understand, where else does it help us? What does this secure us potentially?
You
And
know,
and you know what, David, you don't have to answer that now, but it's just something that I'm interested in when I see down here that it says we're required to have this. I'm like, there's not a statute that says you're required to have this. Absolutely not. So I'm trying to understand how important, on a scale of 1 to 10, is it?
and I can't speak to that, but it sounds like you'd be open to an answer later.
Yeah, no, that's
More
fine. I
detailed,
just
yeah.
want to say that out loud because, I mean, I want to abide by all the laws, but I don't want to, and it's not throwing the money away. But we have a document already. It is outdated now, I realize that.
Yeah.
And some of the things you've talked about, none of us even know or know very little, if anything, about. But some of the things you've talked about, and they're just very little, we've already accomplished.
Yeah.
So we haven't really sat down and had the opportunity to go through that and identify
I would agree with what you're saying. I mean, we're required to update it. I don't know what the definition of update is. Does that mean we can literally go through there on our own or in a light manner that doesn't require a $40-some thousand bill to the port and get through the process. I mean, I don't know anything about it, I haven't even read the document that we're talking about, but it seems like, we have a template to work off of, right?
Yeah, and if you assume that, it costs $100 an hour to review it, this is 450 hours
Yeah.
at $100 an hour to update and modify an so I've got sticker shock, quite frankly, that's what I'm looking
And
at.
it's so, and it's, this isn't about the two of you, it's
Yeah.
about, see, the reason we're in this position, in my opinion, is because of the turnover we've experienced in this port, in upper management. We finally have settled with somebody, in my opinion, that is really doing a good job for this port. Which, and again, in my opinion, it's been a long time since we've had that, and guidance. So we're trying to do a lot of things and catch up and learn a lot of things and move forward. And this is one that we've been hearing a little bit about, and Dave's brought it to our attention. It's just until I sit here and start reading this, or I got it in the email the other day and started reading it, and I'm like, ooh.
Okay, I got a question on the grants and everything you're talking about. Go to page 24 on your thing, please. You don't have it.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Now, are these all grants that they got in fiscal year 11 to 12? Replace boat launch, 75,000, anyhow, on the bottom and everything, you got your strategic plan down there at $1,999. I mean, what are these? I mean, first I saw this, are these grants that they have used, or we got? Marine dredging, fiscal year 8, 9, I think that's what they've got. $154,115. I mean,
We borrowed
That's-
75, and it appears that
that's a
there's
grant.
54 granted.
right,
Yeah. So
there's grants out there.
there are,
So we actually got a grant to pay for the strategic plan.
Planning, right there, and another one down here.
yeah, for the,
The 19, yeah, so we got, what, 20, over 20,000, a grant for the planning. I mean, are you reading the same thing I?
Sources of those, but yeah, that's,
Okay.
that has to be what those mean, I don't know what else those would mean.
Okay.
One of the things I'll mention is, our original proposal included, like I said, it had the sort of, it was scaled, it had 3 alternatives. One of those was sort of, I think what some of you are alluding to, which is to just, how couldn't we just like go in and change the dates
And do it.
and add the budget?
Do a time and material, yeah.
And so we had one that was essentially, we had an estimate that was significantly less, that was like, we could just go in and work with staff and just make sure that it doesn't lie, right? That it reflects actual information that's up to date. And then the next steps up were, and then when we get into the subjective stuff, it's like we can't update that stuff. I mean, we either leave it how it is, or we try to engage in some kind of a process to look at
Facilitate
strategy.
us.
Yeah, facilitate a strategic effort to say, this is what's not working, and this is what is working, and this is an opportunity we're missing, and this is a threat that we should really be thinking about. And so that's what the more expensive option frankly represents, is, and that's where it gets a little more expensive, frankly, is because we're you know, you can't put an intern on it, you need to engage in some meaningful conversation. The other thing that it represents, which could be, I mean, if you look at the second page here, we have every one of these things. So if you look at 5 and 6 and 7, well, 5 and 6, there's a lot of hours in 5 and 6, and it's because there is this facilitative process at the commission level. So you all, we incorporated a 3 to 5 port partners, and so from what I've heard tonight, no clear port partner emerges. I have to imagine that there's some sort of chief port partners, but that's what we included, was an outreach at that level, and then an outreach with the public, which is kind of a
That'd be 3 people, but that's all right.
the public.
well, I think what happens is that when, I mean, it's something like that, what you're talking about, when we sit down together with someone like you, we'll identify those partners in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, once we start understanding and talking what they are. We have a lot of partners.
Yeah.
We just right now
Yeah.
can't say, well.
I think so
you
too.
know, the city
Yeah,
of
urban
Florence,
renewal
no.
and chamber of
So,
commerce and,
we have partners.
So if you, for example, were to look at this and say, you know what, there's gonna be 3 people who come to that public meeting, and as much as we care about the public's feedback, I don't think that you need to add a significant budget line item for a public outreach effort at this level. But you could say, let's ditch
Sure.
the sort of the public piece, let's focus on our port partners and the sort of commission's approach. And that would be a lever that would make a pretty significant dent in the overall cost of this thing. And so there's elements of this that are scalable. And, you know, we're not gonna come up with LCOG is a public agency. We're not, we wanna cover our costs, but man, we go razor's edge on these things. So it may look inflated, but it comes from a lot of experience in working through at least a scope like what you see here.
okay.
Well, it may not look the same when you're done.
Well,
Sure.
Like Jake was saying, what's in front of you is that higher end. We propose the small, medium, and large updates, and this is pretty much all the large. So what you don't see is what the small gets you, and that's what Jake was saying is those simply just updating the document.
I mean, we also bill for hours worked, right?
Under 5,
I was gonna ask you that.
you guys are talking about all the strategic opportunities, threats. Well, what's the acronym?
SWOT.
It's SWOT.
Right.
Strengths, weaknesses,
Strategic weaknesses, right, okay. So we did this, what, 5 years ago? I mean, there's a pretty good amount of money dictated to that part. I just wonder if we could look at some of this and maybe make some kind of determination on what's changed in the last 5 years, and, couldn't we?
Well, I'd like to see.
Can't we participate in some of it to maybe save some
You guys-
costs?
You guys will be participating in that.
Yeah,
It'll be depending upon, it appears to me, it'll be dependent upon what we decide we want to change. We want to add to this, we want to expand on it. That's what this is about. And we can go through, I can't pick any out, but we can go through here in rubber stamp, so to speak, that's not a good word. There could be a lot of no changes or minimal changes.
It may have been beneficial for the commission to see the original proposal that outlined the small, medium, large updates.
Yeah.
Because what you see in front of you is the large, and the small and medium don't include a lot of those facilitated crew meetings.
And you're just basically telling us that as we move through this, it can take less time.
Yep.
Or this time,
So you do time and materials.
That's right.
because that's.
Can you, is it public knowledge, the hourly rate, or does that depend on the expertise that we're asking for?
No, the hourly rate would be my rate and Henry's rate, and we also have another staff member who's working with us who has lower rates. than
And you're
both of us.
$300 an hour?
Closer to 100, yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't far off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got possibly billable 420 hours on this project, of various, if
The way that this would work typically, Henry's not $100
No, I'm not.
an hour.
he's 300. No, and, okay,
Less than Jake.
okay, all right.
I mean,
That's fine.
a proportion that typically ends up realizing these projects is a sort of 25 to 75%. I mean, I'm gonna be involved to try to
Okay,
manage
Okay.
certain parts of this, but we're gonna always leverage the efficiency staff that we have to get the work done. I mean, we're very cognizant of that.
And I think we'll be very cognizant in what we feel we need changed in the dollar value and what, some things won't need to be changed, or some things will just need to be minorly changed, other things we may wanna add. So
Yeah,
I
we're not,
really
we're
think
not.
that's gonna come down to us.
and we could have a workshop and go through that,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, we started out with a choose your own adventure dynamic,
Right.
and so that we're completely open to proceeding that way. Frankly, we're sort of oversubscribed right now, so it won't be devastating.
We're not gonna
at all
hurt your
to
feelings.
reduce this.
What time limit do we have on this? We need to do what we're
I don't think there's a hard time limit. I mean, there's a general time limit, which is it's expired. And one of the ways that we haven't really addressed, or maybe we have, when we say it's expired, it's not just like outdated with numbers, but the plan represents 2013 to 2018. So the window that it contemplates is literally, we're in
Yeah.
planning no man's land. Like, there's nothing in here
We're
that
into the next 5
explicitly
years.
addresses. Yeah.
So when we do this plan again, is it gonna start from this date or from 2000?
That's a good question. I was wondering the same thing. I think I was gonna probably work with Business Oregon to figure out, like, if we have a lapse somewhere in there, is that a problem? Or can we say, we're gonna finish this in 2020 and we want it to be 2020 to 2025?
Well, there isn't any government agency regulating saying that we gotta have it, because if there would have been, they'd be on our rear ends.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're gonna research the answer
Okay.
of the, look, we're a year into an expired plan. We know that we need to do this. Help us understand more about that. When you say we need to, what do you mean?
Because this strategic business plan update that you help us with, or you put together with information from us and input, is gonna be for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
It isn't gonna be for the 5 years we just went through,
That's
under any circumstance. It really doesn't
no,
matter.
but it could, my question was, would it go back to the end of the 2018 plan and start then?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because we're liable to end up with only 3 years left before we have to renew it again.
That's what I'm saying.
gonna guess.
I'm saying that, I don't know what the answer is, and I'm not sure there is an answer because there isn't a statute that directs that. That's Business
I'm
Oregon.
optimistic that they would say, go 5 years ahead.
We're just glad that
You
they're
know,
doing
You're
it.
forgiven for the lapse.
Okay, so I mean, I look at that way too. I look forward to really some facilitation in some of these areas that we can get through. A lot of this you can breeze through it, but some of it.
Do we need an action item here at this meeting?
I can't imagine.
I'll just lay it out there. My understanding was that, I mean, we have an IGA with the port right now, an intergovernmental agreement to do the work. We haven't billed an hour to the work yet, because we wanted to touch bases with you all. So, tonight is about getting direction on the tasks that you see in front of you. One of the questions we had was the sort of objective stuff, which in my mind is really straightforward. It is someone's time to sit down, and it's not inconsequential, but to sit down and work with staff to answer the really basic, again, objective things, like what is the demographic profile, what are the facilities, what does the budget look like? There are things in here that, it's not that any of you couldn't do it, but who's gonna do it kind of stuff. I mean,
Okay,
there's this,
okay.
and this would be our efficient staff
And this
working
is
on this.
boilerplate information that's expected to be in there.
That's right.
Okay.
And then the second part of it is that subjective, strategic, like, well, what are our values?
That's
What do
the
we
dream
wanna-
phase.
The dream phase, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
And if the commission feels like the dream phase is adequate or is how you want it, then it doesn't necessarily need to be changed, but that's something you have to.
but it would be nice to be
decide.
deliberate about that, right?
Yeah,
To
we
say
need
we
to
looked
talk
at
about
it,
it, because the dream phase in there, some of it's already been covered.
But some of the dream phase was never obtainable,
That's correct, and we'll change that.
so I think everything we put in there should be obtainable.
Yeah, no, I agree, I agree.
We can tell cleaner on the commercial, we're 66 kayak and bike.
Well, I've learned some more. This was important.
David, is this what you would recommend us to do, is to accept their services to do the objective stuff?
Well, I've been told by other ports that they don't do their own strategic business plans. They've always been facilitated by an outside source, so.
But the scope of their tasks, we can't decide that tonight, right? We can
We'll just
decide.
work with them, I think,
Yeah,
Bill.
yes.
And, I mean, I think it's just all about, we need direction. I can't do it. If some of you can, fine, but I can't do it. Actually, I mean, I wouldn't, even if I could, I wouldn't wanna do it. But the point is that we do need some guidance. We
Okay.
cannot expect our port manager and his staff to do this.
Okay, I agree.
There's stuff in there that, just listening to Craig here, it needs to be reviewed. But I think that they can get the information from us as it comes commission and from our staff, we can give them direction as what's important in our future, in our 5-year future. And we can, I'm not sure that,
We need to come up with a want to list.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll look at the plan ourselves in our spare time, whatever that is. And then they'll facilitate to help push us through, knowing that we don't want to sit around for hours while we tell war stories, knowing that our objective is to get a good product, a quality product for a reasonable price. I'm not, it's a little sticker shock for me, for sure, but I mean, I understand that. It may not have to be that high, it may be. But it'll be up to us when what we suggest to them from their interaction with us.
You do know we budgeted for it.
Yeah, I've already said that, yeah, but I hate that public budget stuff, because everybody in the damn country can see what the number is. It's, God, I hate that.
Well, they didn't see it.
Well, that doesn't mean we
No,
have to spend that amount.
they didn't see it, but they know darn well that,
Yeah,
they know that we're not gonna go over that.
But this,
Or budgeted. You turn to page 66.
this was the most extensive and the most expensive.
Well, I'd like
I
to
just
see the
have
other
some
two
questions.
proposals, Jacob, and
Well, I
Yeah, I
wanna
mean,
know
it's
what
just-
their proposal is not gonna be this proposal, correct?
No, we're gonna tell them, we're
Okay,
gonna.
but let's go to 66.
Okay.
Reconfigure Sea Road, okay, it's done. The kayak, we don't know about anything about the gazebo, but you keep on going, pave campsites and roads by 2017. Install clubhouse, community space by 2016. Install second restroom. I mean, whose idea was this?
That was the Port Commissioners, all 5 that you just read
that
off.
was the dream. We're gonna,
We're
that
doing
was
that.
their
We're not
dream
going by
list.
this, are we?
No,
Oh, no.
so I said some of those goals on there were not obtainable.
We're gonna do it differently.
We're
We'll
gonna
have it
try to-
different.
Yeah, 'cause this isn't gonna fly.
We'll have a
I think
real,
we're identifying the value proposition.
we'll have a real, that's
There's
a
some
wish
utility to it.
list. That was a different set of commissioners. There's lots of things that changed.
They didn't have the commissioners writing that.
Well,
Yeah, they did,
That's what we're gonna talk about as we
don't they?
go through this
Jerry was
process
in
of
on
it.
I was there.
updating the strategic business
The
plan.
next one?
Buchanan,
well, without an action
I was
item,
Buchanan.
oh,
we can still give direction to David and these gentlemen that
Yes.
I think we definitely need to use their services, but I would
We're
like,
just
I would like to work on this, I would like us to discuss with it amongst ourselves the scope of work that we would expect.
Who's gonna put up, is David gonna put up what we need to have done? What he should?
No. We don't want David responsible for what we're gonna
We
put.
need to determine the scope of work.
We're gonna
Well, yeah, but
determine,
where we're gonna start it?
Well, we need to have a workshop analyzing that, is what I would
Well, this right
suggest.
here can go out and throw it away.
I know, but the first thing, okay,
No, you don't throw it away.
Did you folks help us with the last update?
Yeah, this,
We did not.
You
They
did not,
did.
do you have any
You know, I
idea who
encountered
did?
somebody, you probably, I'm sure you know him, somebody down in Dune City, and his name escapes me, but he said,
Robert Forsythe.
yes.
Oh,
He
yeah.
noted
kidding
that he
me?
essentially wrote the plans.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
he was
what-
the commissioner,
Wait,
and that was the mayor of Dune City.
Oh, right, yeah.
But he was a manager.
He was the port
He was a
manager.
port manager.
That's why the kayak
Anyway,
had to fight so close.
Anyway, I think this will work out just fine. I mean, I really do. Like I said, I had the sticker shock too, but it'll work out. We'll be able to work with them. They'll be able to give us guidance, and we'll.
You know, we have an IGA, we're both.
That means a credit card?
What that means is
It's a
that we're
grocery
both
store.
public entities who are, you're a member of the Lane Council of Governments.
Right.
And we enter into IGAs because we can't operate outside of them, but what we're trying to do is provide a service to the port that was requested, and we're happy to help to the extent that our help is welcome and needed. And so we can provide the original scope that was sort of scalable, so that you can look at it and use it as a tool to say, oh, well, let's dial this back and dial that back, or turn this up or turn that down. What I'm hearing is that, we're not gonna run hot in the first couple of months, but that we could proceed in working with staff on some of those objective updates within essentially chapters 1 and 2, which are things
Okay.
like the facilities.
This
They're
is the
just
point,
saying
this is the boilerplate
is-
stuff.
Yeah, this is what's here. It's not, we don't make any policy assumptions or any, we just try to describe the baseline in 20,
And then the DreamWorks can come later.
and the DreamWorks can come later.
Okay.
And if you look at this, the DreamWorks is really where the dollars start to escalate, because it's,
And where we need help with grants and things like that.
yeah. And then, you know, that one, I
That's part
really
of our
think,
membership. right?
sorry?
Just part of being a member will help us,
Yeah.
will help us with that.
You know,
That's part
part
of the
of-
services.
The estimated time to adopt this is July 2020, so it's not like we can just kick back and do
No.
nothing.
I think we need a workshop
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, sometimes,
So we do the workshop.
I know. So I guess from my perspective, I just move forward, and Dave, you've gotta work with them to do the stuff that we're talking about, the boilerplate stuff, working with staff and providing
Yeah.
figures.
is that enough direction, Dave? I think we need to work with these folks.
Because we're not here to sign we don't have we're not here to sign a contract, or are we?
Well, we have an intergovernmental.
We had the
Oh,
IGA
no,
sign.
you've already
It's
got an
executed.
IGA, but that's
But we have
not it's not a,
not a scope of work contract.
we're not signing a contract to pay you $42,000 to $45,000.
We never enter into agreements that are, you will pay us this much.
Okay,
money.
no, that's the only thing I was asking. I know we have an IGA.
We
but
enable the relationship to commence with work.
We're gonna
right?
pay you what you do for us. Okay,
Exactly.
that's what,
Yeah, that's what we do. We always have like not to exceeds,
sure.
time and materials.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm good with that, gentlemen.
Me too.
Good, good. I'm glad you introduced yourselves to us tonight. We'll know what to look for when we see you in the office, like, oh, don't go in there. Neighbors in there. It was a good opportunity, because this is something we do have to do by July of 2020.
Yeah, we'll give more details about the need. I mean, I think
And we
you
need some
deserve
help,
a good explanation as to why, you know, hey, 2013, 2018 plan has expired, who cares? You need a good answer.
Yes.
You've pointed out that, well, we're stewards of the port, so we need to have some idea about how we go forward, but help us understand this business Oregon element, and I think there's an answer there that,
Well, Business
Satisfying
Oregon
enough.
requires a strategic business plan.
right, but what does that mean?
If we
What
deal
does it
with the business organ, which we have. and
We have.
So.
Yeah, yeah. I'm certain that it has to do with enabling their support programs.
Yeah, it's purse strings.
Well, it's,
So, but that's fine.
It gives us a credit rating with them, how this thing works is what it amounts to.
basically just.
So what we're gonna do is
This-
develop a whole new plan.
I thought I had the wrong number.
David is, or we are, or
Well,
somebody
you're
is.
jumping ahead. We don't know that, but yeah.
I'm not jumping ahead, I just read what was there. That's not gonna happen.
Okay, guys, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, and we will, David and Kelly will be your point contacts.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hope
you
we
bet.
hope we weren't too hard on
And
you.
I'm sure they're a whole lot easier to get along than we are.
Plenty of other distractions.
Craig will always be on site at the port when you get there to answer your questions.
You know, that is actually a good point. We tried to figure it out with Kelly how to do sort of a tour, and we're gonna try to have some opportunity to see the facilities.
But what you need to know, without a strategic
Where do
business
you
plan in
live?
place,
We just drove down from Oregon. From
Oregon.
You've never been to Port Saisla?
Yeah. I mean, I have some of the
Oh,
marquee facilities I can see. Some of the other ones.
Because some of that stuff has already happened in that plan and everything, that's why it's gotta be re-rolled. And the blue buildings are coming down, I read all that stuff, so.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Good, it's a good opportunity, thank you guys.
Hey,
Moving on, we obviously have no public comment. Approval of agenda by consent, nothing heard, it is approved. Approval of minutes by consent, any problem with the
Agreed.
minutes? None heard, they are approved. Kelly, anything you'd like to add on the financials?
Just the checks printed in September were $70,760.84. And our occupancy for the campground is down 5% year to date, and mortgage is down 3% year to date.
How much did we make on our money thing with the bank?
Oh, the percentage rate,
Yeah,
it went down,
again,
it went down 1.9.
To 1.9 or by, no, went down to
To
1.9. Went down to 1.9%.
1.90,
That's what it is now?
that's what
Yeah,
she sent me.
you
in
guys
the paper.
remember, we had that conversation way back when we changed it. And-
Things change, yeah.
Oh, yeah. really.
Any questions of Kelly?
No, not me.
Manager, commissioner reports?
We have these assessment reviews that came back from, when we did our, so you guys can take a look at
A
it.
lot of people didn't show up in that.
Well, there's 3 of us there.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, so I don't need one.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
see
show up.
Kelly.
Was it?
We did really good.
Well, I think we can take time.
Well, did we pass?
Yeah.
Oh, good, I knew.
Well, they don't have any excellence.
What's that,
Our
management
green is,
of oh.
green
I know
is,
why.
is
About
good.
doing,
I know why, so you got a plan for that?
I've already done a couple here recently, so
Okay.
I'm
Good.
I'm in the process.
We're on it.
So that was the only dean that we had.
Oh, that's that yellow bar box?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was in the yellow.
That's just to keep you slightly off balance,
I
Dave.
seem to think that I remember one manager telling us that that's none of your business, I do whatever I want to do, it wasn't this one.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that from.
Better
Dave.
not ever say it to me as a city commissioner, that's.
Yeah.
Well, here, basically you got in trouble for not having your weekly meetings.
Or
No, evaluations on staff.
employee evaluations and stuff.
Which is critical because you have payroll
I'm
raises coming up.
I'm doing them. I've actually gotten 2 done this week.
Okay, good.
But, you know, we did that strategic business plan, we talked about that for,
I don't
Well, I've heard it talked, we just
Yeah.
never talked about it in
Yeah.
any depth. These guys pointed out some depth here that we need to consider.
and I was assuming that the scope of work was pretty extensive from what I understand on the strategic business plan. It's not just a matter of changing a few things and reprioritizing, we're doing a whole new strategic business plan, is what it sounds like to me.
But we can get a template for Better Business, for Oregon Business Services, and sit there and fill out that template.
Yeah, not, that doesn't, yeah, 500 hours of billable time is,
But remember though,
It's
that'll
more,
be dependent upon us if they put 100 hours in.
that's correct.
Because we can go over a lot of that stuff with them and go, no, this is this is the way it is, we're not changing this.
And we make our dreams realistic instead of, yes.
Like Craig says, and Terry says, let's do something we can achieve.
Let's
Put
stick
things
to
that we can
reality.
achieve.
Yeah, not this trail from Silk Goose to the port.
well,
Is that on there?
all that,
Oh, yeah.
that's the previous plan, all that.
Oh, I know,
all that
I was just reading what
Yeah.
what was on there, and I just, I could
So
figure
we'll
out.
just be
you know.
logical about it.
Well, yeah, but for a reason, we start with, the dredging, which is gonna be done, and then the removal of the moved buildings, what was on there, I mean, we just do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
That
Well,
was
what-
correct.
What we can get done,
Yeah,
Well, it looks nice if we have a project that we're gonna need money from Oregon.
right,
When we go to them and say, look, it's in number 3 of
There you
our
go.
business plan,
Mhm.
we feel that strongly about, they're gonna say, yes, you do, here's your money.
yeah, and
They have
that's
to
gonna
get
be
the
part of
right-
replacing the bulkhead, and
Yes.
that one right there will be part of that.
Yeah, but I don't know if we're ever gonna consider the bulkhead replacement.
Well, it was on that one, so I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Well, yeah.
okay, Kelly, anything?
So I need to know if you guys wanna have a meeting in November.
We're required to have a meeting every month.
Unless we can take an action to postpone it, right?
Last year we canceled the December meeting because
we
we
did.
didn't have a quorum.
Right.
I won't be available.
Well, that's a different story. If we don't have a quorum, we can't have a public meeting.
I can't make a November meeting.
I can't be available. I'm
You
having
can't
some
make a
certain-
November meeting.
You can't make a November meeting. How about you?
So,
Can you
Dave- I
you
mean,
can't
Dave
make a
can-
November meeting?
You know, you
Yeah.
guys can run the meeting and Dave and stuff like that, but I don't think there's gonna be any financials or something, cause I'll be out of commission.
We got 3 members that can't make a November meeting, so we're not gonna have a quorum.
Okay.
So
I don't
not having a meeting.
I think we looked into this once and we're required to have a meeting every month. If we don't have a quorum, that's a different story.
Okay.
Am I wrong on that, Mike?
No, I don't know, Terry, because
I can't believe it. I think we
Because I
can
have-
take an action to postpone a
I
meeting anytime.
wanna
we
say that I've seen, I can't comment on it. It seems
I
to me
remember
like
us
we canceled.
canceling the meeting.
We may need,
But we
we
didn't
may
have
need
quorum.
commission action to cancel a meeting. I know that, on the FURA, which is a state agency, we've canceled meetings.
I remember us
We've
canceling the
canceled-
November meeting for the holidays one year.
I can find out from SDA.
Well,
We're in enough trouble with SDAO, just a simple little phone call to them.
well, why don't I introduce a motion if it can't be effective? I
I don't think you need to do a motion, just direct the staff,
Okay. Okay.
would be my.
Yeah, I'm in
advice.
agreement with that. If we, I mean,
That's
it's a tough,
fine.
it's a tough time, I mean, that's a kind of a busy time for lots of people anyway, you know?
Yeah, you got elk season and oak season and
And Thanksgiving and
elk
elk
season.
season.
Yeah, it all runs right there.
Last year, I was in New Orleans when we did it.
And it's possible, Kelly.
I'll ask
I just remember something there, and if there's not, I'm
Okay.
fine, for let's cancel the November meeting.
Okay.
Because we have 3 members who've already said they're gonna be out of town. So, if it's legal, cancel it.
Me and you, huh?
And I'll be elk hunting.
Oh, I guess it'll just be me, so we're not having a meeting.
I'll let y'all know for sure.
Okay,
I move this meeting be adjourned, President.
I second it. Meeting adjourned.
excellent. What do we need, anything we need to do to clean up in here?